Hello BookTube, my name is Juan. I am just one reader. I hope you are enjoying my new setup. I will hopefully be filming many of my upcoming videos this year in this location, so I hope you enjoy this. This is my living room. Well, only a side of my living room that you can see. But anyway, I will be filming here hopefully for quite some time now. So hopefully you will enjoy that. So I am here with my reading wrap-up for the month of January 2023. Wow, that feels so strange to say that number out loud. Anyway, the first book that I completed this year was Sharp Ends by Joe Abercrombie. This one is a short story kind of collection, and the reason why I am saying kind of a short story collection is that it didn't really feel to me like a short story, like a real short story collection meant to be read and to stand on its own. This really felt more like a collection of information and miscellaneous material that is connected to the First Law universe. So in a way, this felt more like supplemental, extra bonus information about some of the characters, locations, and plot lines in the First Law universe, including the trilogy and the standalones. So in this collection, there were many stories that I enjoyed somewhat, but I was always left feeling a bit cold. Not because the stories themselves were not good, but just because it felt like that. It didn't feel like a good short story collection should feel like, in my opinion, which is like a rounded, complete entity with its own like line of thought and philosophy and statement. This felt more like, oh, in case you wanted more information or more adventures with this character or that character, well, here you go. There's Sharp Ends. Now, having said that, I did give this book maybe 2 or 3 stars. Honestly, I don't remember. Some of the stories in here actually were pretty fine, pretty damn fine. One of the stories regarding Glokta, who is the best character in the First Law trilogy, that was very good. And there was a couple of other stories that I really liked. But yeah, I don't know if I would recommend this collection, honestly. It's just not, it's not a short story collection. It felt more like supplemental information. But it wasn't the worst time I've ever had reading a book. It just felt a little bit pointless, honestly, and I wish I had just started reading the Age of Madness trilogy instead, which is what I will be doing in March, probably. But anyway, the next book that I completed in January was Melmoth by Sarah Perry. This book was very interesting. I was not expecting this book to be similar to The Essex Serpent, which is, Sarah Perry's big masterpiece so far. I was not expecting this book to, be as good or even similar to The Essex Serpent. I really wanted this book to just, surprise me by being itself. And I really enjoyed that. I actually liked this book quite a bit. In the end, I gave it, I think, 3.5 stars, maybe 4 stars, if I am being very generous. I do think this book has its problems, but I think there's something quite striking and quite unique about the writing and the tone and the premise. I also really like the setting. This takes place mainly in Prague, which is a lovely city that I really like as a setting. It's a short, compact novel, and even though the final portion of it, like the third act of the book, sort of let me down a little bit, I will say that the beginning of this book was wonderful. It was gothic, it was dark, it was sort of romantic, not in the sense of like having romance, containing romance, but like really romantic, like being sort of haunting and nostalgic and kind of terrifying. There were many passages in this book and many notions in this book that I found really terrifying. The writing really stands out. I think it's really good. The setting really stands out. There are some things that sort of kept it from being a better or fuller read, but I enjoyed it. So if you're looking for just a strange gothic standalone, Melmoth by Sarah Perry was quite interesting. Then, okay, I am smiling just picking this book up. I finished Robin Hobb's trilogy, the Soldier's Son trilogy. This is the third book, Renegade's Magic. I read books 1 and 2, which are Shaman's Crossing and Forest Mage back in 2022, and I adored those books, especially the second book. And book 3, Renegade's Magic, was, wow, it did not let me down. It was so fantastic. This book is very, very close to being a 5-star read. It's not quite there yet. I think Robin Hobb has crafted better books, including the previous 2 installments in this particular trilogy. I think are slightly better than this, because I mean, especially book 2 is just, it's such a delicacy. Renegade's Magic, however, was really great. It was satisfying, and it's as close to a happy ending, without spoiling anything, of course, as you can get in a Robin Hobb trilogy, but not in the way that you think it will be a happy ending, if that makes any sense. It's just very surprising. It's very realistic in a way. It's very profound. And what I loved about this trilogy as a whole thing is just how thematically grounded and important it is. It's just such a superb piece of literature that just so happens to be fantasy, but it's just such a great piece of literature. The characters, all of the characters' arcs, all of the plot lines, all of the little things and you know, little tidbits of information that Robin Hobb gives you throughout the trilogy, everything really pays out. And yeah, it just came to a conclusion that was both shocking and surprising, while at the same time feeling completely obvious and inevitable in the best sense of the word, and incredibly realistic and humane and just lovely. This book was great. I'm sorry I cannot give out more information about this book, but I really, really want to keep these videos spoiler free. And so I will just say that if you haven't read Robin Hobb, you should. And if you have read The Realm of the Elderlings, which is Robin Hobb's most popular work, and you haven't read the Soldier's Son trilogy, you really, really are missing out. You should pick this trilogy up. It is completely separate to The Realm of the Elderlings, different world, different characters, slightly different writing style, but it's so profound, and in a way, I think that this trilogy contains some writing that is even better to the writing in The Realm of the Elderlings. So yeah, this was almost a 5-star read, and just by looking at the smile on my face, you will know that I just adore that trilogy with my heart. Then I read Anne of Green Gables because I was, you know, I just wanted something light and something, you know, that would be sort of a palate cleanser after Robin Hobb's great finale. So I picked up Anne of Green Gables, the beloved classic. I don't know if I should say children's classic or YA classic. To me, it just feels like a classic. And boy, oh boy, I found a soulmate. This book, Holy Mother of Jesus Christ, up in the sky, in the heavens. Oh, I am completely enamored and in love with this book. It wasn't a 5-star read. I am very, very stingy and particular when it comes to giving 5-star ratings, but it was almost there. It was like a solid 4 stars experience. This book, from the very opening paragraph, I was like texting my best friends going like, this is just exactly what I've been wanting to read and waiting to read for years. This is exactly the right book for me. I am completely in love with the writing. The writing was really the most delicious thing that this book offered to me. The character of Anne as well can be a little, for some people I've heard, she can be a little annoying. I didn't find her annoying at all. I'm a big fan of the show Gilmore Girls. And if you like Gilmore Girls, you will completely fall in love with this book. It just sort of has that kind of slightly or very twee feel to it. It's incredibly heartfelt, heartwarming, heart-wrenching. It made me sad. It made me want to cry. But all the while, I was just smiling, completely transfixed when I was reading this book. And it really all comes down to the writing. I think the writing is just a perfect writing style for what this book necessitated. Anne, Marilla, all of the characters. I mean, I feel slightly emotional talking about this book and just remembering, the feeling of this book. This is one of those books where I don't remember like particular scenes or plot lines. What I remember is the feeling when I was reading it, and that just goes to show you just how great, in terms of evoking a particular sense of atmosphere and a sentimental atmosphere, this book can be. It was great. I love that this book centers a lot on the adults, the grown-up characters who are learning as well from this character of Anne, and it really is, to me, a great exploration of parental and filial sort of relationships, and how some prejudices about children and childhood and discipline and education and the bringing up of children. So I adored this book. And finally, something completely different but equally satisfying, or well, not equally satisfying, but very satisfying, was Shirley Jackson's The Lottery and Other Stories. This is a collection of stories by Shirley Jackson, and it includes the famous story The Lottery, which many people claim to be one of the best short stories ever written. I have mixed feelings about this book. There were many stories that I absolutely adored, mainly the stories that revolved around this like claustrophobic small domestic spaces. Most of the stories, by the way, take place in the 1950s in New York kind of settings. And so most of the stories that I really adored had to do with this really domestic, everyday spaces, like a house or an apartment building or a store or a street. These very mundane sort of spaces that suddenly became like, they sort of became eerie and ominous and charged with suspense. And it really does something great of transforming the mundane into something really horrifying and unsettling. Some of the other stories that I didn't like as much had to do more with social commentary, social critique of that particular time period in the United States of America. Here, I live in Mexico. I am Mexican. Hello, hola, ¿cómo estás? I am a Mexican person. And so some of those social commentaries I found interesting and important, but not particularly, they didn't resonate with me, especially because of that, quite as much. And then we come to the actual like horrifying stories, like The Tooth or The Witch, or I really like one where I think it's The Demon Lover. And well, there's a couple of stories at the beginning of the collection actually that I thought were really great because they were really unsettling and sort of properly terrifying without really knowing why, and I really like that sort of ambiguity. I really love that ambiguity, and Shirley Jackson pulled it off. And then of course The Lottery itself, which is the final story in the collection. So in a way, I was sort of looking forward to being done with the collection just so I could get to The Lottery. It was like the price at the end of the rainbow. And I have to say, I really enjoyed The Lottery, but I enjoyed thinking about The Lottery more than I enjoyed reading it. I think reading it is fine. It's a fine experience and it is a great story, but the more you think of it and analyze it almost word by word and sentence by sentence thematically and every little thing, I think the more you will enjoy it. And I think that goes I think that applies to the rest of the collection largely. I think the more you analyze it and think about it, the more you get out of it. So yeah, I gave the collection 3 stars. It's hard for me to rate a short story collection just because, some stories I loved, some stories not so much. But in the end, I will say Shirley Jackson is a very interesting author. And that is my wrap up for January 2023. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think of these books, or feel free to recommend any book to me. I am looking forward to reading your comments. I am Just One Reader. I will see you on the next video.